Good morning, guys. Today's video, I'm going to talk about how old I was when I started drugs. I can still remember it like it was yesterday. And now I'm 55 and I started when I was 12. But it is that clear to me, it's not funny. So, anyway, I used to go to a pinball parlour after school. Now, that was in Sutherland of New South Wales. It was right actually next door to the old police station in Boyle Street. I was known as the pinball wizard. I was really good at the game, and I was cracking all sorts of titles in them days. So I spent a lot of time there. Now, the guy that introduced me to my first drug, which was weed, like pot, he's no longer with us. I won't mention names. His brother died also, so they're pretty well known around that area. Well, they were, and I dare say their story would be still getting spoken to about this day because they both suicided. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, back to where I was talking. What I was talking about. I was at the pinball parlour, and I was talking to this guy for a long time. He ended up being a very good friend of mine. And I asked him why his eyes were always red. And he said to me, he goes, I smoke weed, I smoke pot. And I was a bit stupid. I said, what's it do to you? What is it, And pretty much, well, it's harmless. It's, just a plant, blah, blah, blah. Smoke it through a bottle with a, water and hose. And, I said, can I have some, And obviously he said yes. And we walked up the little alleyway into this car park with, it was a dirt car park. There was a whole bunch of trees, and it was like a little cave thing that he's made in there, and that's where the bong and everyone used to sit there and smoke their weed. So, I went in there and had me pipes and me bongs, and there it was. I felt great, and I was off my head, and that was the start of it all. I don't think I stopped pretty much from that day onwards. I wouldn't have done it every day, but it became very frequent, at least 3 times a week. Now, it didn't take me long for me to start getting into trouble after that. I thought I was an adult. I was smoking cigarettes back then at that age, and I was out of control. Well, I had what they diagnosed me with back then was what they call overactivity and hyperactivity. Now, that is ADHD in today's terms. Okay, there was no such thing as that back then, but that's, what the psychiatrist ended up saying I had. Now, I went fucking off the rails within the first 12 months of smoking weed. And it didn't take me long to start using other drugs. What gets me, with the weed is how it's become legal. I'm still beside myself. Now, back then, there was no hydroponics, so it was all bushweed. Now, they used to call it Cincinella, Tide Buddha sticks. Like, don't get me wrong, it was strong. It was really, really strong weed. But where I'm going with this is the psychosis that it used to bring back in the 80s was very real. I ended up, I've lost a few mates to schizophrenia. And, excuse me, but that was my dog coughing. To schizophrenia. And that was brought on by excessive pot smoking. So I don't know how the hell they've legalised it and, made it legal. It just doesn't make sense because, hydro is a lot stronger than what like the normal bushweed was and is. And it'd have to be causing psychosis. Like, I know if I smoked bongs today or had a joint, my paranoia would be through the roof. Okay, I'll get to that in another video because I ended up getting extremely paranoid smoking weed, where it got to the point I actually did quit. And my mental state was when that bad that I ended up in in hospital. So, that's something that I'll talk about in another video. But yeah, that was my introduction to weed, 12 and 13 years of age. And it didn't take me long to start spiraling out of control and leaving school and everything else. But let me say this, weed is the kick-off. Don't let anyone turn around and say that you'll never try a harder drug, because that's bullshit. You will. And it's like doing a small crime. It always leads to a bigger one. And then it will start to something, especially if you've got an addictive personality. Now, you can pick an addictive personality very quickly in life, because if you're doing something and you're getting hooked on it, you'll know. Whether it be drugs, sports, weightlifting, dieting, whatever. It's all part of the addictive personality. With me, like, I had a good upbringing. Well, when I say I had a good upbringing, I didn't think it was, like, it wasn't rough. I didn't get bashed or anything like that. But addiction was very real in my family. My father was an alcoholic, a workaholic. My mother was a workaholic gambler. Fortunately for my dad, now my both parents are still alive, they're in their 80s. Fortunately for my father, he gave up the alcohol, cigarettes many years ago, and got through it. My mum is still doing a thing. She's still gambling. She'll never change, but she's at the age now. Like, she's in her 80s. Let her be, you know. So unfortunately, it did, and it still does. Takes all the money, and it's quite sad to see someone go through that. But as she says, she doesn't drink, she doesn't smoke, and that's her enjoyment. So these day and age, I sort of just let that be, you know. I don't say nothing about it. Me too. I've suffered from gambling addiction, and like I said, I've got an addictive personality, so it doesn't really matter what I do in my life. I will always be addicted. It's like my training now. That's what I do. I like my weightlifting since I've got out of jail and you know, stopped using drugs. That's my addiction, and I'm addicted to it. I do it daily. You know, I get overwhelmed if I don't train. If I do a few days without training, I start spinning out, like thinking, I've missed out. But that's just the addictive personality coming out of me, and I'll never get rid of that, you know. So anyway, I'll cut it now. As I said, man, I apologise if this video is not real exciting. I am only new to this. I'm learning. I will get better. I am over in TikTok. I do content over there. So if you want to go over there and check me out, it's just my name, Brad J. Harris, and you'll find me. And yeah, go from there. Now, if anyone is actually suffering from any addiction or wants any and to know anything about it, drop a comment and an email address. I'll get back to you. Or go over to TikTok and send me a message there. I don't ignore my messages. I do reply. And I have got a lot of people saying thank you to me over in TikTok. I have helped a lot of people kick drugs and stay away from crime, especially the youth. And that is the main reason I'm doing these videos, you know. Yeah, so we'll leave it at that. Take care and have a good one.